Hello friends, I am Shyam Tamankar. I welcome you all on behalf of MSBTE in their new audio-visual learning program MSBTE Lead Learning at Your Doorsteps. Now we are going to discuss the course outcome 2, unit outcome 1, part A of your management subject code 22509, which is common for all the students of 5th and 6th semester. So let us start with the discussion. What is CO2? That is course outcome 2. It is planning and organizing at supervisory level. Means a supervisor who is working on a shop floor, what he requires to plan and how he has to organize his department for manpower as well as materials and so on. Now we will discuss the first part, which is about the planning, about the nature and characteristics of the planning. We'll understand about something about planning. Importantly, planning is the key to success. It means that if you want to do something, if you want to have any activity, or if you want to achieve any goals or objective, then you have to plan in a better way and in a timely manner. If you don't, then probably you will not succeed, but there will be a failure. Now we look at the agenda of Uo1 part A. What is that? So we will discuss about what is planning. We'll try to understand nature of planning, why planning is required, what is the importance of planning, types of planning, steps in planning, and we'll see the relationship between planning, its execution, and the controlling process. Now, in short, when we plan, we take the stock of the situation. It means we try to understand where we are. It means we try to understand what is our strength, on what ground we are going to plan, so on and so forth. So, in which situation you are. From here, you decide on where you want to go. So, the destination of your journey means you decide on your goals and objectives, and then you will have to choose a path to reach there, isn't it? When you are starting for certain point, for certain destination, then you have to choose a path, and that path is nothing but a plan. So it is said that good plan is like a roadmap. So plan is a roadmap. It shows us the final destination and usually the best way to get there. Now we'll understand what is planning. Now planning is the first and foremost step in the process of management. You know the cycle of management. You must have learned it in CO1 that the major steps in management or the process of management are planning, organizing, implementing the plan, then monitoring and control, and thereafter the management review or audits. So this is a continuous cycle. The first step in the process of management of any activity is planning. It may be an individual activity or an organization of any type. The organization may be family, it may be a business, or a non-business or a NGO organization or any other type of organization. It may be religious organization, it may be a social organization, it may be a political organization. Now the organization may be a large or a small one. It may be a small, it may be a family affair, but you have to plan before. Just for example, if you want to have a function at your home, you have to plan, isn't it? You have to decide on the date, you have to decide on the time, you have to decide to whom to call, so on and so forth. So many questions are to be asked and then answered, and you make the plan. Same is the case with businesses. So, businesses or non businesses, small or big, they have to plan. Now, it is essential to decide goals and objectives. So, before you start planning, you have to decide what is to be done. What is to be done, and for the achievement of the same, the plans are made and executed. Now, planning is a mental process, it is a mental activity. Whatever you plan at the mental level first. So, first, the plans are made at mental level, focusing on the desired goal. How you make the plan? We focus on the desired goal, and accordingly, you create the plans. Thereafter, they are put on paper as appropriate action plans. So, you decide something to do, then you mentally decide how you are going to do it, but then all the details are to be put on paper first. Really, if it is a big organization or a big function, then everything is to be put on paper. They are called as the action plans. Top management, with the help of middle and lower level of management, execute them in time bound manner to achieve desired goals. So, top management makes the plan and they execute them with the help of middle and lower level of management. And very importantly, we have to execute them in a time bound manner. If you don't follow a time frame, if you don't follow a timetable, then you will not be able to achieve desired goals at the required time. Now, apart from planning, you have to create different businesses and functional policies. So you have business policy, you have functional policies like finance policy, production policy, quality policy, and so on and so forth. So all these policies are also to be created, which can be the guiding factor when you are doing the planning. Now, how is the nature of planning? As we said, planning is always future oriented. We make plans for next day or coming week, month, year, or coming years. We never plan for the past. Do we? We never plan for the past. Very simply put, when we do planning, we try to answer the questions what, why, who, when, where, how, and the answer we get becomes the basis of the planning. So, you decide what is to be done, why it is to be done, who will do it, when you will do it, where you will do it, and how you will do it. So these are all the questions which are to be answered when you start planning. There is very apt definition given by Kunz and O'Donnell. There are many definitions of planning, but according to Kunz and O'Donnell, planning is deciding in advance. What he's saying, that everything is decided in advance as because it is future oriented. What he says is, planning is deciding in advance what to do, how to do it, when to do it, and who is to do it. Just we discussed about it. It bridges the gap from where we are and where we want to go. In the first slide itself, we discussed that We decide where we are and where we want to go. And very importantly, it is in essence the exercise of the foresight. It means the people who have foresight, the top management people who have foresight, they are supposed to do the planning. Now, unless planning is done, no activity can start and nothing can be done. Is it possible if you don't plan? Can you start anything? No, you cannot start anything. The persons or the organizations that plan better in time always succeed to achieve their goals. So, you have to plan better, meticulously, cautiously, and that too, you have to do it in time. Planning creates a focus and direction towards goals. So when you create the plans, you become focused towards whatever the goals you have decided. Planning minimizes the risk of failure and uncertainty. So if you don't plan, there is always a risk of failure and uncertainty. And to avoid this risk of failure and uncertainty, planning is required. Planning facilitates control. Now we know that after planning and its execution comes the control. So you have to create the control when there is a process of execution going on. In absence of planning, that is, if we don't know what is to be done and controlled, no control is possible. Planning improves efficiency and effectiveness of any activity or process and ensure optimum utilization of resources. So if you plan in a better way, you can utilize your resources efficiently and you can have your process effectively. So it must be kept in mind that planning is not a one-time affair. That means you plan it and then forget. But it is a continuous process. So you have to do continuous updating or course correction according to changing situation or contingency. It means that as day-to-day situation keep on changing, as the external environment keep on changing, you have to update your plans accordingly and you have to give the course correction to the direction where you want to go. So very simply put, or example, consider that 6 months back, many of the businesses in India or world over, they might have planned something. But because of this now COVID situation, a lot of changes might have been made to their original plans. Types of plan. Planning can be classified on following basis. Coverage of activity. That means whether it is at the corporate level, whether it is at the strategic business unit level and or the departmental level, that is the functional level. The second type is importance of contents. So there may be a strategic planning which is done by the top management, which is for the entire business, and they are essentially the long-term plans. And tactical plans are the departmental plans or the functional plans, and operational plans are for actual execution at the shop floor level. So supervisors are mostly concerned more about the tactical and operational planning. Time period involved. So there may be a long-term plan, a medium-term plan, and a short-term planning. Long-term is generally beyond 3 years. Medium-term means 1 year to 3 years, and short-term means you can say 6 months to 1 year, as far as the businesses are concerned. Now the period is not fixed, but generally it is said that when you do short-term planning, it is for 1 year maximum. When you do medium, it may be for 3 to 5 years, and when you say long-term, it may be beyond 5 years. Approach adopted. It may be a proactive planning and reactive planning. It means that when you do something, when something happens, when you do some corrective action, And when you plan for that corrective action, it is called as the reactive planning. But when you decide in advance, when you anticipate the future, then it is called as the proactive planning. Now, above said classifications are important classifications. There are other types also, but we are not going to discuss. Now, steps in planning. The planning process is different from one plan to another and one organization to another. The steps generally involved in planning as shown in the diagram. It means that as the activity changes, so the process changes. The process changes from one plan to another and maybe from organization to organization. But on an average, the steps involved, the general steps involved are as follows. They are perception of opportunities, establishment of objectives, planning premise, identification of alternatives, evaluation of alternatives, choice of alternatives, formulation of supporting plan, and establishing sequence of activities. Let us take an example. 150 years back, Jamshedji Tata perceived an opportunity to manufacture steel. Why? Because 150 years back, the industrialization started in India, and he thought that a lot of steel will be required for buildings, for building infrastructure like bridges, or building factories, building machines, so on and so forth. So he perceived that opportunity. So he decided to go for a basic steel manufacturing plant, that is smelting plant, that is converting the ore into the pig iron. So the objective was established that they will manufacture pig iron from the ore. Now what the planning premises says is they decided now that where they are going to have that plant. So the external environment is scanned. He saw the opportunity that in Bihar, means today's Jharkhand, there are lot of ore, iron ore deposits. So he could purchase those mines, and he could also find that the labor is available in Bihar. So for steel plant, you need strong people. So Biharis or the people from Bihar, he found that the it will be the appropriate labor. So this is the planning premise. Now identification of alternative. So they thought of that how much will be the capacity, what type of a ore we will utilize, what type of a technology will be utilized, so on and so forth. So all alternatives were thought of. Then they evaluated those alternatives and they came down to a certain technology, and they came down to a certain capacity, and accordingly they created a project at Jamshedpur. So after this, the choice was made and the formulation of supporting plan was done. So a lot of supporting plans are to be done, means from how to transport the ore to the plant, and how to transport the pig iron to the market, then how to arrange for the water, how to arrange for the power, so on and so forth. So supporting plans were created, and then the production activity, the sequence of that production activity was decided accordingly. The facility layout was created and the factory was established. So in short, I could explain you how is the planning process. Now, only planning is not enough. When you do plans, put them on paper, execution is very, very important. Unless you execute the plans, they will remain on paper. We will see this in our next part. But only planning is also not enough. The execution is not enough. You have to create a controlling process at every stage of the process. The process is to be controlled. Unless otherwise you control the process, you will not get the required results. It is said that planning and controlling are like the two blades of a scissor. Unless otherwise we have both, then and only then the results can take place. If the scissor have only one blade, can you cut with the help of the scissor? No. If you want to cut with the scissor, then both blades must be present. Same is the case with planning and controlling. So you must have planning, and accordingly you must create a control process. And then you have to analyze the performance data by controlling and monitoring, and then if required you can change your plans or you can change in the process of planning. I think this is enough for the first part. Thank you very much for hearing patiently. Now we will meet in next part in CO2 UO1 part B. Thank you.